your New York Islanders news and expert Islanders analysis from the fourth line in Bridgeport to the first line in Long Island. This is the Dump and Chase podcast. Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode number 38 of the Dump and Chase podcast. I am Shane Blackburn. You can follow me on Twitter at ShaneBNHL. Alongside me today, Andy Graziano, who you can follow on Twitter at Tasman19, and Rich Diaz Rodriguez, who you can follow on Twitter at RDNHL. We are ready. We are roaring to go. It is episode number 38. We have Jiggs McDonald coming on with us in just a couple of minutes. We're on a 4-game win streak. I mean, does it get much better to be a New York Islanders fan right now? Does it get much better to be a New York Islanders podcaster or writer, or just is it a get better to be a general New York Islanders anything right now, guys?
There's so much love going around the team from the mainstream media. Some of it is kind of you could say a little too late, right? I mean, some of it's from writers who've just absolutely destroyed this team in the past, and some of it justifiably, but I think as a writer, I think especially on this site, we pride ourselves in being a little more objective than that and a little more fair than that. But, hey, it's all about 15 wins in 21 games, new franchise record. This team is just on a roll. You can sense something different both on the ice and in the room with this club. It's just a different feel in every way. They're carrying themselves with much more confidence. Capuano's keeping them on a very even keel emotionally, not letting them get too high with the wins that they've been getting, 9 of our last 10. Yaroslav Halak has given up 8 goals in his last 7 games, all wins.
2 shutouts, 3.
Pretty impressive stuff. Pretty impressive stuff.
I don't know about you guys, but as a viewer, right, as a fan and as a writer, if I feel the confidence as a fan watching this team play, thinking, oh, no, they're going to get this goal back. Oh, no, they're going to win this game. Can you only imagine how the players must feel? The confidence that exudes from that bench and from that locker room? I mean, I'm just a fan. I'm a lowly fan watching the game, and I sense it. I can see this team play with just exorbitant amounts of confidence, something I haven't seen in a very long time. And it's not anything other than a system that they bought into and a philosophy that they live by, I think, on and off the ice. What, you going to leave me hanging?
It's always fun to do that. It really is.
Uncomfortable silence is the best silence.
You guys are
It's always fun to do that.
No, Rich, you're right. And I talked about this the other day. I was able to make a guest appearance on Hockey Night in New York with Sean Cuthbert and Tony Stabile on Sunday, and it's the new generation of fan has never seen a team this good, right? I mean, we kind of got spoiled with the teams of the 80s, and we enjoyed our success with 4 straight cups and 5 straight runs to the finals before the roof caved in. But this younger generation of fan really gets to enjoy this club right now because it's something unlike they've ever seen. And you know what? Good for them. They should enjoy it.
Shane, let me ask you, since you are the younger of the 3 of us here,
hey, thanks.
Way younger.
Yeah, all right. So Shane, let me ask you. So when you see like a 4-game winning streak, do you get nervous? Do you get like, oh my god, this is going to fall apart on me? Do you feel like this is not going to last? Like December's going to be in November, and
I don't. I feel like a lot of people in my generation of Islander fans may get nervous. This team is for real. Mm-hmm. I think it's finally okay for us to just come out and say that. I was nervous about saying it a little bit earlier in the season. Mm-hmm. When we got off to the hot start, because I've seen the Islanders get off to a hot start before and then just crumble before our eyes. Mm-hmm. But this team is the real deal, and this weekend proved that to not just fans and people within the organization, but I think it proved it to people outside of the organization and outside the realm of Islander world that this team is legit and this team is for real this year. I mean, you don't walk into Pittsburgh and win 5-4 in a shootout and then turn around and beat them at home 4-1. And hold Crosby to 1 shot, no points, unless your team is legit.
Okay.
I mean, we gave up 4 goals to the Pittsburgh Penguins in a game, and Crosby didn't have a point.
And go ahead.
Our defense and our goaltending now is able to shut down the other team's best players, and our forwards are able to turn around and do, to the best of their ability, what they need to do. They turn around, they come out, and they score when we need goals. Matt Martin scored backhand against Pittsburgh to tie the game at 1 in a situation that the Islanders couldn't get a goal. I mean, the Islanders couldn't buy a goal on Saturday night at the Coliseum. And then the fourth line comes out, they put pressure on, and Martin just sends that backhander home. And that there's nothing better than that, than your fourth line giving you what you need. The Islanders forwards are doing what they need to do, and the defense and the goalies are finally there to help keep them in check.
Yeah, today I came out with a column just basically recapping the first quarter of the season, giving kind of my impressions on where I felt the roster was at this point, player by player, throughout some team stats, some advanced stats. The Islanders are below in the league average in PDO, and basically what PDO is simply save percentage plus shooting percentage, which, as we know, shooting percentage is mostly all luck, and save percentage to a certain degree is luck as well. So if you have a very low PDO, yet you're still winning, that's an extremely good sign. Islanders' Corsi and Fenwick possession stats are fantastic, and it's just what we're seeing. I'm not so sure. I mean, there's going to be some regression. Let's not fool ourselves. But these are very valuable points that they're putting in the bank, where when that regression comes, they'll be able to build sort of a cushion to offset that.
There is something very unique about everything Garth Snow has done in the last few years, and I think the most reputable move that he's made are the ones that he did not make. And I say that regarding coaching. I think that sticking by Capuano when things were absolutely grim, and just like last season was a nightmare. Let's just get that. I mean, anything that could go wrong pretty much went wrong for the Islanders. Yeah. And he stood by him, and he said, okay, Jack, I'm going to give you another season, if you will. I'm going to give you a team. Now show me. And I think Jack Capuano, like everybody assumes that coaches know what they're doing right off the bat, and they don't. They learn like players do. They learn a system. They learn to roll out a system. They learn their players, etc. I think that, for me, Capuano has shown in the last 9-10 games that he has learned how to be a proper coach. He has learned how to use his weaponry properly. How to, like, those line moves, juggling of the lines that he did a couple of games ago, and on the West Coast trip to shake things up with deft moves that really showed me this man has learned a lot about his team, and he's really, really in sync. He's really in charge of that talent, and my hat's off to him, and my hat's off to Garth Snow for not caving in and just playing it old school, playing it his way. Never mind old school. He said, this is my team, and I'm going to see what I can do with it.
Well, I think on the Jack topic, it all comes down to talent, right? I don't think he was ever given the proper talent to make a true evaluation of what he can do at the NHL level. And, as Arthur Staple has said on this show before, it's very tough to evaluate coaching because I think a lot of people probably overestimate what a coach does and the impact he has. In terms of systems, I think that Jack always believed in his system. He always believed it was a system that could work. And now that he has the talent surrounded around that system, everything seems to be falling into place nicely. Again, that's not to say that there won't be a slight regression. We're not going to win 15 of every 21 games. That's just unrealistic. But, we're starting to see what Jack can actually do with talent. It helps being handed to Stanley Cup pedigree defenseman a week before the season. Let's make no mistake, that doesn't hurt.
Right, but at the same time, I mean, you have to be able to quell the egos in the room.
Yep.
Kind of get them all in. That's the one thing about Phil Jackson, if you don't mind the basketball analogy here. I mean, okay, so you have Jordan and Pippen and Rodman, but you have to keep everybody in check. You have to have them believe that they can play like a team and not like separate stars that make a team. That's true. And this is what I see now. And I guess we'll talk to Jiggs about this and see what he says. But I believe that there is a strong sense of camaraderie on and off the field, on and off the ice, something we haven't seen for quite some time.
All right, guys. Well, since Jiggs came up, we had an opportunity to speak to Jiggs a couple minutes ago. So we're going to drop it in right here for you guys to listen to. This is Jiggs McDonald, legendary Islanders broadcaster and one of my favorite people to talk to. So here he is. I think he had a lot of good things to say, so make sure you guys stick with it. and just listen to what Jiggs had to say about the team. Hey, Jiggs, thank you so much for coming on with us again. It's great to have you on for, what, the fourth time now? Third? It's great to have you on the Dump and Chase podcast again.
Thank you. Nice to be with you guys.
All right, so Jiggs, let's start off about this red-hot Islanders team. Unbelievable franchise, record-setting 15th win in their first 21 games last night. I'm sure this brings you right back to the great teams. Well, not so much exactly, but the similarities between the teams that you called back in the 80s. What do you see out of this team so far this year? What is making them this successful?
Confidence. Absolute, total confidence in one another. I think when you play with confidence and you're being rewarded, the confidence just grows. It's not a cockiness. It's I believe that they believe in one another, that they've got one another's back. The thing that I noticed the couple of days, 4 or 5 days that I was around, was how everybody seems to like one another. There isn't a clique. I didn't see any indication of a certain group over here and another group over there, and it's a credit really to the players that they brought in, that they have fit in so well. And when you look at the number of changes over the off season, to have that happen the way it has happened is just something that you don't really expect. But I go right back to what it's the fact that they're playing with confidence.
Now, the other day, we had the great fortune of having Billy Smith come in and speak to us as media on Saturday morning prior to Billy Smith night at the Coliseum. And he made mention of specifically the way it's so hard nowadays to keep teams together as those great legacy teams of the 80s for the Islanders for that long because of money, plain and simple.
Yep.
And that leads us into Johnny Boychuk, obviously, who's scheduled to be an unrestricted free agent. What are your feelings on Johnny? I know we've gotten a couple of things out of Arthur Staple regarding he's still a little bit unsettled, unsure of how his family's going to fit in, and I personally don't see him doing anything prior to at least seeing what's out there on July 1st. What are your feelings on Johnny Boychuk going forward?
I think you're probably right. I know that he's enjoying it. He's getting quality ice time that he didn't get with the Bruins, the power play, the penalty killing, but the power play in particular. Those minutes are something that he probably would have had with Chara hurt, but he's getting the opportunity to show his wares. Now, whether he waits till July 1st, and he just may, but I had the feeling that he was enjoying what was going on, enjoying the group, and had fit right in as a part of it. And really, this is a whole area. When you can acquire a Johnny Boychuk and you can acquire a Nick Leddy and not give up a player off your roster, you're not giving away any one of your 18 players, or if you include the goaltenders, in exchange of a trade. Hats off to Garth. What a great piece of business he did on that Saturday before the season opened. I couldn't believe it. I'm watching on the internet and I'm saying, oh my, and then Arthur, I think it was Arthur that tweeted, then they're not finished. Really, they're not finished. So you add quality like that to your back end, and really, there are a lot of the critics that say they overpaid probably to get Grabowski and Kuhlman. No, they have worked well. Not so much together, but they have fit in on the respective lines where they've been played, and the upgrade in goaltending. It was quite an off season, but I go back, and I keep going back, don't I? But the acquisition of Leddy and Boychuk really stabilized that back end.
Yeah, I remember I was driving to my mother-in-law's, and my wife's just looking at me as those trades are going down, and she's like, "Are you serious? Will you put that phone down?" I'm like, "Do you believe what's going on right now? You have no idea what's going on." I cannot. I ran up to my mother-in-law's house, got right on the computer, and she's just looking at me like, if looks could kill, I'm surely dead right now. But my last quick question before I hand you over to Rich is regarding Michael Grabner. They're obviously bringing him along slowly. I believe with the chemistry they've built, there's no need to really rush him. I know Chris put out a great column today on Insight to that point. What are your feelings? Where does Grabner fit in, and who doesn't play when Grabner comes back?
Boy, that is that's a nice situation to have, but it's a difficult one because you don't want to upset your lineup. I mean, you've got a guy like Corey Conacher sitting there right now with all kinds of speed. Maybe he doesn't have the finish that some of the others do, but you would expect him to be in your lineup. And right now, winning the number of games they've had or have won recently, that you just can't fit him. So where do you go with Michael? That's a you fully expected he would be on the left side with Franz, but that Nielsen line has really clicked as well. There's just excellent balance, and when Jack sends that fourth line out, the crash and bang line, if you will, they usually start after a goal's been scored and that kind of thing. I don't see Michael there. Does Anders Lee go back? He doesn't deserve to go back. Does he sit for a while? It's a tough call, a difficult call.
Jiggs, let me ask you, going back to the moves that Garth made in the summer, I was just thinking, I was thinking here, if those trades weren't done, let's just say for whatever reason they didn't happen, but the kid line, the SNL line, is as successful as it is now with nothing else but that. In other words, if we had to gauge Garth Snow simply on those three players, I mean, do you still think he's as good a GM as he is now with the moves that he made in the summer? Do you think he's still as successful a GM?
It's probably the difference between a B minus and an A. Mm-hmm. The stabilizing the back end, I think, was a tremendous coup. But if he hadn't done that, then in all likelihood, you're looking at a Griffin Reinhart on a regular basis. Mm-hmm. You're seeing Matt Donovan on a regular basis. That would be, I think, your top six. Mm-hmm. And would they be as successful? Hard to say. In all likelihood, it worked out just exactly the way you would like to diagram it. I know the Reinhardt family and a lot of his supporters would like to see him there, mm-hmm. but to learn and get quality ice time again at the minor league level, getting quality minutes and in key situations with the Sound Taggers, I think is a plus, is a bonus for them. Mm-hmm. They're bringing them along the way the rich clubs, by that I mean rich in depth, in talent, bring them along. When Griffin Reinhart is ready, mm-hmm. he'll get that opportunity. I'm sure, Rich, but he's going to have to earn that. Mm-hmm. And if he reaches that level where you know that he's going to fit right into your lineup, then you have a commodity that maybe somebody wants, certainly not the youth of a Reinhardt, mm-hmm. but a veteran defenseman that you're maybe able to move for futures or for somebody that just puts you to that next level now with your hockey club.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So let me ask you this. So the team is humming, right? The team is just doing wonderfully, and I've been keeping a close eye on John Tavares and seeing how he's evolving around this talent. This is something new to him, obviously, in his young career. He's no longer carrying the shoulders or the brunt of his team. Are you noticing that there are some growing pains still in John Tavares? Are you noticing that at times he feels a little bit out of place? Does he look out of place to you, Jiggs?
Not looking out of place, Rich. I see a little frustration from time to time that the puck isn't going in for him as regularly and the chances that he's getting. But I think, too, he's facing the top line. And his unit is facing, for most nights, and started the hockey game, although the other night they did start the Franz Nielsen line in the games against Pittsburgh, I believe. But he is regarded with that line as being your number one line. So they're drawing the best defensive pair that the other team has to offer. They're getting the top line. It's like power against power, as we used to say, mm-hmm. and that gets frustrating. You hope, I think in John's case, from time to time, you would hope that you get a break in line change, either because of an icing or whatever, and get a second or third or hopefully even a fourth line, mm-hmm. that you get some room to move. But he isn't getting a whole lot of space. And that's something that he's going to have to battle through, and will, because of his dedication. He will overcome that, and the puck will be going in for him. He and Kyle just complement one another so well, and It doesn't seem to be a problem as to who Jack puts in on the left side. I like what's been happening there with Kuhlman. They seem to mesh pretty well.
I was just going to ask you that. So, Kuhlman or Brock Nelson, who have you liked to top off that line?
Well, you know, I really like Brock, although I don't know that that Brock is as good a left winger as he is in the middle or maybe on the right side. But on the power play unit, I want to see Brock out there. A couple of things: his smarts, his hockey sense, the way he reads his teammates, goes to the front of the net. The puck seems to follow him around. I think certainly from a power play standpoint, that's where he really complements those forwards right now. But you know, trying him on the right side, putting him on the right with John, and dropping Kyle back didn't hurt a whole lot either. Last Friday night, I was impressed. There's just good quality, good depth there right now. Experimenting with it, you know. All things being equal, when Josh Bailey was hurt and Josh was anxious to get into the lineup, even the game in Phoenix, he was begging for ice time. And there's a story there, guys. He was on that trip, and I guess medically they knew from the trainer standpoint that he wasn't ready to play. He wanted to play, wanted to practice with him, and apparently they said, okay, Josh, you can come on the trip, but you've got to buy the coach's dinner. When I saw him leaving the hotel lobby with Garth, and I thought, gee, you know, this is a little strange. So I was talking to Butchie about it the next day. I said, I think in all the years I've been around, that's the first time I've seen a player and a general manager go out to dinner together. And he said, well, there's a reason, and he was told he could come on the trip, but this is what he had to do. So, I hope I'm not overstepping any bounds by telling that story, but that just I think again kind of amplifies what I was saying, or bears out the camaraderie and the togetherness that this team has developed very quickly.
Hey, Jiggs, I want to hit on Brock Nelson actually here. Brock Nelson's my favorite Islander this season at least. I knew everyone expected him to be a good player, but is there anything you've seen that has pushed him to be what he is today, being the 19 points in 21 games, a +5? I mean, we all expected him to be good, but I don't think many people expected him to be this good this early.
No, probably not. Although those who scout talent see things that you and I don't see, that the ordinary average fan doesn't see, and they saw it. Scouts saw a certain quality and ability and knew that Brock was going to grow and be better, grow both in stature and grow in ability and talent. I know from talking to a general manager, not with the Islanders, but with another team, that his name has come up several times in possible trades. If there was one guy you wanted from the New York Islanders, Brock Nelson. Brock Nelson, give me Brock Nelson. I was told that Garth had an opportunity for a quality goaltender a year ago, and a little more than a year ago, I guess, and the one player they wanted was still in college, and that was Brock Nelson. He's lived up to the advanced billing. He is getting better, and again, it's confidence. You can just see that he recognizes his strength, his ability, his skating ability, and his ability to get there and get open. And if he doesn't finish it, he certainly gets the puck to somebody who can. His passing is much better than it was when he first arrived. He is just on track to be a very special player in this league.
All right, with that, how soon until you think that kid line is regarded as a real dominating, like a line that another team is afraid to play against, kind of like the Tavares line, until they start getting some sort of respect from opposing coaches? Because I think they've been phenomenal personally.
They have. They really have. And if they continue to play like this and continue to grow like this, the word is going to spread very quickly. And this is the key to this success. You can shut down that first line, shut down the Tavares line, like shutting down the Crosby unit in Pittsburgh, but the second and third line is going to do the damage. And right now, that's a lot of that onus. I mean, we talked about Brock Nelson. Look at the strides that have been taken by Ryan Strome. This guy, again, playing with confidence and seizing on the opportunity, getting the quality ice time. That kid line is going to be very, very tough to handle. It's going to give you three producing lines, three that can score. I'm not going to say at will, but have the ability to score. Don't give them too much room, or you're going to pay the price. And that fourth line just comes at you, just hems you in, just hits you, just makes life miserable. It's just an excellent balance of talent right now.
Well, let's get off of the forwards. Let's go to the goalies. A lot of people were disappointed. I don't want to use that word, but people were voicing displeasure in both Halak and Johnson, which blew my mind in the beginning of the season. But Halak has improved to what I think we expected him to be at this point. Is there something you saw that changed his mindset maybe and allowed him to get back up to what we were expecting to get at the beginning of this season?
I think it's just a matter of getting to know the guys in front of you, getting to know your defensemen in particular, where they want the puck. One thing to make the save, but it's where the rebound goes or where you place the puck. And certain guys like the puck in different areas. Just leave it behind the net, I'll come get it. Or if I go to the corner, get it to me. How you set it up after I mean, yeah, number one is make the save. Number two is how you make the save, where the puck goes, how you distribute the puck. And a little while for he and his defensemen to get on the same page, to get that working knowledge of one another, and for him to get comfortable with the dressing room, with his new teammates, be able to call everybody by name, recognize everybody immediately. Once that was out of the way, he has just gotten better. Chad Johnson is a quality goaltender. Maybe doesn't get to play as much as he would like, but I think after saying that, I really think that he is of the mindset of a backup goaltender. You know you're not going to play every night of the week or every game, but if you get to play once a week, then you're ready, you're prepared, and willing, not willing, but eager and willing to get into that game that you're assigned to. The goaltending, when I said at the outset, the upgrade in goaltending, I really do think that the addition of Yaroslav Halak and Chad Johnson is a much better goaltending tandem than they had going last year. Yeah, we all love Nabi. Nabi was a great personality. You could talk to him any time of the day, or probably even during the game, you could have him mic'd up and he would talk. But age was becoming a factor. The key save, the big save, he was in a situation that I think he would agree that there was one goal a game that he would like to have back, and it seemed to be at key times, a goal against, key times that instead of being down by one, now you're down by two, or being up by two, now you're only up by one, and here they come. It just seemed to be a backbreaker for him in that respect. And this combination this year is so much better.
All right, Jiggs, we'll take you out with something for the older group of fans like myself. I won't mention my age, but the newer generation of fans, if they've caught any highlights on YouTube or whatever they want around the internet, they'll hear the sweet sounds of Jiggs McDonald and Ed Westfall as a long-time broadcast tandem for the historic New York Islander teams of the '80s. How is 18 doing? Because we haven't heard a lot out of Ed Westfall. We haven't heard him being around the team or even visiting the Coliseum. How's 18 doing, and how's the relationship this day between these two?
18 is doing sensational. He Air Westfall, as he calls it, is back. Is back in the air. Eddie Eddie early on, in fact, when Eddie first arrived as a New York Islander, had his own airplane, used to fly back and forth to Boston, up to Ontario.
Wow.
Oh yeah, Eddie has been a pilot for many years. Gave up the airplane, and then I think probably 3, maybe 4 years ago, and it might even be more, but it's at least 3-4 years ago. One day we're chatting. He said, "Well, Jiggs, Air Westfall's going again." Whoa, wait a minute. No, he said, "I bought a plane. I bought a plane, and I've got it here in Long Island." And he said, "Would you believe that I'm taking lessons?" Oh no. But apparently, because I don't know that he had given up his license, but because of this particular aircraft, he had to go back for a retraining period and qualify a number of hours, and the takeoffs and landings and that kind of thing. All of that's out of the way, and I know he's back and forth between Florida and Long Island quite regularly, flying his own airplane. He's doing fine. We missed one another in a call here recently, and you to call him, and I'll do that.
There you go.
I'll do that this week. But I know he keeps track of what's going on with the team when he's not on the golf course, or being an entrepreneur that he is in other fields as well. He is a piece of work. He's just one of the all-time good people.
All right. That's fantastic. We wish Ed Westfall nothing but the best from Islanders Insight, and to you as well, Jiggs McDonald. You're a legend in our mind, in the minds of a lot of Islander fans. We thank you so much for coming on again with us, and we'll
my
talk
pleasure.
To you soon, sir.
Number 91, John Doe.
And so the Islander captain will place the game on his stick and move in on Mason. Rivera scores, and the Islanders win on about his 65th move.
Tavares, now it's just reactionary. He's just waiting.
All right, guys, so that was Jiggs McDonald, legendary Islanders broadcaster Jiggs McDonald, of course, followed by the John Tavares shootout winner last night against Philly. But I think Jiggs had a lot of great things to say. One of the things that stuck with me the most from the Jiggs conversation was the confidence difference that you could see in this team from years past. And you could see it where, and you could feel it as a fan, where down a goal late in the game, you're no longer shutting off your TV and going out to do what you have to do. Now you're sitting there glued to the TV because you know one of these 12 forwards or one of these 6 defensemen are going to come up big and score you the game-tying goal here. It's not a matter of if anymore. Now it's just a matter of when.
I think that's a great point, Shane, and I saw that on display a couple of times. One, I think that if you look at the stats that are in the media notes that we're privy to before every game, you'll see that the Islanders are 7-1 when allowing the first goal. You'll see that the Islanders are now 7-2 when tied after 40 minutes. And I think that goes right to your point of showing a level of maturity. I saw it in the Pittsburgh game the other night at the Coliseum when Pittsburgh was up 1-0 on the Evgeny Malkin goal, late second period. The Penguins were trying to suffocate the life out of the Islanders in the second period. And, the fans, even at the Coliseum, which was a sellout crowd, by the way, outstanding crowd, never wavered, never even sighed, never got uncomfortable or restless or never got on the team because, as you said, it's almost like they knew it was coming eventually. And, boy, it came in a big way in that third period.
I think what impressed me the most about what Jiggs said, it wasn't even, it's something that's so obvious when he says it, but when you watch the games, it becomes increasingly more obvious. It's the camaraderie, it's the fact that these guys do like each other. And, yeah, maybe that's not necessarily, I don't think that's as important as just doing your job on the ice, but I guess it helps to like, your teammates and get along and have some sort of like a bond, if you will. But it's only a bond that can get you through those terrible moments that, like most teams fall.
Well, as you guys know, I was at the game on Saturday against Pittsburgh, the first game I've been to this year.
Wow.
And one thing that I noticed in my first game of this positive season was the smiles and not just the smiles, but how they behaved and acted during warm-ups. The one thing that stuck into my mind, I think it was Boychuk and Hamonic. Boychuk was up against the boards, and Hamonic was skating over while they were doing one of the warm-up drills, and he just kind of like jumped and gave him a little bit of like a shoulder check into the boards, and they both just started cracking up laughing and skated away. And that's something you don't see when teams aren't doing well. It's something you see when teams are gelling and teams are playing together well, not just winning, but also enjoying their time playing together. And to see that really made me realize that this is a top-end NHL team now. They don't go out every night wondering, are we going to give up 7 today in the second period and lose? They don't come out every game wondering if they're going to be able to muster up enough shots on net to score a goal. They come out knowing, hey, we're a legitimate team, and we have every opportunity to win this game. Let's just go out there and have fun and play.
This may sound a little ridiculous coming from me, but yesterday I was trying to get 88.7 on my radio, my car radio. And I can't because that station is all but dead in Brooklyn. So there's one street that's about 6 minutes away from where my dad lives. It's just a dead-end street. I have to drive there. I was running an errand for my mom for Thanksgiving, so I had to leave in the middle of the third period. I said, all right, I'll be back. So I had to drive to the dead-end street and try to listen through all this static what I could, like the faint signal of this game, because that's how excited I was. That's how on edge of my seat I am with this season, that I'll have to drive to some random street. Hopefully I can get the signal. Whereas, like you said, Shane, I'll just like, oh, they're down one, forget it. It's done. It's a done deal. The Islanders are going to lose this game. I don't know. It's exciting beyond belief.
Yeah, I think everything around the team is different. I think when you go into the locker room after a game, I wrote a column Sunday at Islanders Insight on the level of maturity that this team is showing, and I never saw that more clearly than Saturday night after the Pittsburgh win when I went in the room. And it felt like to me that it was last November and the Islanders were in the midst of that horrific losing streak. And it just, nothing has changed. It's all business. There wasn't a lot of jocularity going on. There wasn't a lot of music playing and guys throwing tape at each other, and it was just all strictly business. And we heard that in the comments post-game from Captain John Tavares and head coach Jack Capuano. Cappy, especially in his post-game presser, made it a point to say, we're going to look at the tape. There were mistakes made, and guys are going to be held accountable. John Tavares made it a point and said, look, if we end up the year in first place, that's where we want to be, but there's 62 games left. And I think that just shows a different level of maturity that this team didn't have before. And I'm going to point again to the additions and the pedigree of Johnny Boychuk and Nick Leddy as being a huge part of that locker room culture now.
But I also think, and guys like Grabowski and Kuhlman, this is a second chance, if you will. Yes, they've been on different teams. I get it. But like, this is a legitimate second chance where they can reunite and rekindle their glory from the past, right?
I was wondering where you were going with that for a second. For a second, I was a little frightened there. The way you were going with that.
I just think that's just a testimony to what Garth had in mind when he signed these two players. Because for me, and there's no secret, I am, I don't hide my emotions when it comes to hockey. And Nikolai Kuhlman, for me, is my favorite New York Islander. Just hands down. Number one, unsung hero, dark horse, whatever the heck you want to call him, absolutely phenomenal hockey player. And you have to see him live, ladies and gentlemen, to truly appreciate what he brings to this team. Because what he does away from the puck is probably more important and more impressive than what he does with it. And what he does with it is pretty damn good too.
Right, and there's no doubt he's been the most pleasant surprise on the team this year, and I think it says a lot to Kuhlman's attitude coming in that,
Exactly.
they had their most success when playing together in Toronto, Kuhlman and Grabowski, and Kuhlman has just shined as the new addition without playing with Grabowski. So I think that says a lot about his attitude and how he's taken to this hockey club.
Exactly.
All right, goalies aside, we're 20 games in, and I think I finally made up my mind on who the best addition to this team is.
21 games, but okay.
Okay.
Same
Who's
thing.
counting?
No one's counting. Yeah.
And it's Nick Leddy. Because
Absolutely.
I think Nick
I
Leddy
agree.
has been he's the dark horse candidate for best addition to this team because he's quiet.
Okay, all right, but are you basing it on like offensive production?
No,
Rich
I'm
don't
basing
like, Rich
I'm
doesn't
basing
like
this
that
on
answer.
I'm basing this on the eye test because he's the unsung addition. He does it quietly. He doesn't have 20 points. He doesn't have a million goals. He has 9 points, 5 goals, 4 assists, but he does everything right. He plays well defensively. He makes that
Shane,
and
But Shane, he's on the ice for X amount of
no,
time.
no, but hold on. I see what Shane's saying. The word Shane mentioned there, which is kind of funny, that'll lead me into a quick hitter, is quietly.
Okay.
After Billy Smith spoke to us on Saturday, Islanders PR brought Ryan Strome and Nick Leddy out to speak with us. And anyone that knows me well knows that in my advanced age, and I have a little bit of a hearing problem. It wasn't my hearing problem that was causing me to literally strain to hear Nick Leddy speak. Probably one of the most soft-spoken athletes I've ever been around. Not necessarily uncomfortable around us, but you could barely make out what he's saying legibly, and even on the recorder. So the word quietly certainly fits Nick Leddy. But Shane, to your point, as far as the eye test, the advanced stats also say that possession-wise, Nick Leddy has been the best Islander. I think he's invoking memories of Kenny Johnson for me in
Yes.
terms of just smooth and silky in transition, which to me is the most important part. The most important part of a defensive system is not only coverage, but it's transition. Transitioning the puck from defense to offense through the neutral zone. And for me, that's what Nick Leddy has done so well, unlike any other Islander on the roster. And that's why, to me, I agree with Shane. He's been, out of all the additions, the one that's shined the most for me.
I will say that I agree with both of you, and Shane, you can totally go after me and destroy this. But I will say this. I completely agree that Nick Leddy is, hands down, a phenomenal addition to this hockey team, and we are in where we are because of Nick Leddy, bar none. But considering how much ice time Kuhlman gets, considering that he has a very short window of opportunity to make an impression, weigh that against what Nick Leddy has to work with, and you can see Kuhlman wins by a nose, as far as I'm concerned, as far as who's the better Islander at the moment. I believe that when you see Kuhlman in person, and you just say, okay, I'm just going to watch him on a shift, this man does more work. I mean, short of being the referee, he's everywhere. He does everything on the ice.
See, I look at that the other way around though, because the type of game Leddy plays, the more ice time gives him more of an opportunity to be exposed. He has to be on top of his game for 20 minutes.
Absolutely. But at the same time, forwards, this man has been thrown in every single situation. Aside from the fourth line, he's been everywhere. He's done everything. Short of playing defense or the fourth line and goaltending, he's done everything he's been told to do, and he's doing it better than anyone.
Before we argument over which player is the best addition to this team. Just tell me how good it feels.
Let's think about it this way. You want to know how good it feels? Let's think about this. Okay, 15-6, 71% of potential points garnered after 21 games. As I said, a PDO which ranks in the bottom 10 in the league, which, considering the record, is outstanding. Corsi and Fenwick 5v5 numbers are in the top 5. This is all with John Tavares, who I feel is in the top 5 of players in the National Hockey League, being under a point a game. This is with, in my opinion, 3 of the Islanders' top 6 defensemen not even playing their best hockey. And those 3 for me are Lubomir Visnovsky, Thomas Hickey, and Calvin DeHaan. I don't think are playing as well as they can play. Well, I think they've all. I saw some noticeable. Me and Scott Charles were up at the press box Saturday, and
he made
DeHaan just had one in the first period. DeHaan had about 4 of those. Shane, 4 we counted.
They were pretty ugly.
Yeah, but
then he made up for it.
Right. Well, every player's entitled to a bit
later in the game, though.
every player's entitled to a bad period, a bad game. I get it, but to me, at 15-6, with Tavares being under a point a game, and with those top three, in my opinion, not even playing at their potential, bodes very, very well for this hockey club. Now, real quickly, Tom Ballantyne came in with a question. If you're an opposing coach, what line do you strategize your game plan around stopping first right now? Johnny's struggling line, slow down the kid line, or counteract the forechecking of Bailey, Nielsen, and Grabowski?
Oh, can I jump on this?
You sure can.
All right, because if you're an opposing coach right now, you have to look at the Islanders as not an offensive strategy. You have to look at them defensively, absolutely. You can't go out there and you can't try and match your offensive line to their defensive line. You have to make sure you're stopping their offensive lines because they are scoring at a pace that I don't think I've seen the Islanders score ever. First thing I do is I have my number one defenseman out against John Tavares' line at all times. I have my best defensive trio. So my best defensive forwards are out against Bailey, Franz, and Grabowski. But my number one defensive pair is always out there against Tavares because regardless of whether he's struggling or not, you need to be able to shut him down the one game that he decides he's going to turn it around and get himself going.
I feel Tom's question is a perfect one because I think it leads right into the fact of why the Islanders are so good this year and why they're so dangerous, and that's simply depth. When Michael Grabner comes back, and you're looking at him being on the third or fourth line, Michael Grabner, former 30-goal scorer, being on the third or fourth line. That's the kind of depth this team has this year, and they are a very, very tough team to defend right now with all those lines going, and to a certain degree, the Tavares line isn't even quote unquote going yet. That is going to, if that continues, and again there will be slight regression, to a certain degree. They are just going to be a very, very difficult team for anyone to handle the rest of the season and into the playoffs.
All right, so real quick, we do this every week. Let's do it this week before we head out. But first, before we do it, I want to answer Tom's other question. I do think my man crush on Brock Nelson is bigger than Wilhoff's man crush on Bolton. And that's all I will say. I love Brock Nelson. I have 2 of his jerseys. When he scored on Saturday, I think I almost jumped out of the Coliseum. I jumped so high. So yes, I have an intense man crush
you can't really jump out of the Coliseum because it's an enclosed building, so you can't really jump out of the Coliseum.
I almost went through the ceiling.
That would have been a sight. I really wish somebody, if that happens, somebody has to get that on their cell phone camera because that would be outstanding to watch.
Next time I'm at a game, if Brock scores, just make sure all this cameras are pointed at me.
I will, most certainly.
But let's do it real quick, guys. Player of the week. Who do you got?
Rich?
What, me? No. Without a doubt, Jaro Halak. Absolutely, just tearing it apart, and he is exactly what a goalie is supposed to be. He's supposed to steal you a game here and there. He's supposed to be a backbone on other nights. Without Halak last night against the Flyers, who knows? That breakaway that shorty breakaway, that would have been a goal last year.
Yep.
So Halak for me, no doubt.
Without Steve Mason last night, who knows?
Yeah. The goal and honorable mention, Coolman. But anyway.
Andy, what do you got?
I think I have to go Halak as well. I think when I looked at the numbers today and the difference in Jaro Halak from October to November, obviously they're very striking numbers. You're talking about a GAA that's gone from a 3.5 to a 1.5. You're talking about a save percentage that's gone from an 87 to a 95 month over month. And what I was expecting to see was a sharp reduction in shots against that Halak has faced. And what I found was in October, Halak faced an average of 30 shots per start. In November, that's only down 3 shots per start at 27. So Jaro found his game quickly. The positive regression showed up. And for me, that save he made on Claude Giroux last night in the shootout, spectacular.
Yeah, oh, my God.
Spectacular. That's sick.
All right, guys. My player of the week goes to Yaroslav Halak. We're in unison and agreement on that. I'm going to jump the same kind of ship that Rich was boating right there, and I'm going to say a special mention to Brock Nelson. But player of the week has to be Yaroslav Halak. Like you said, Andy, he's found his game, and the fact that he's found his game and our offense is clicking, the Islanders are an exceptionally scary team to play against, and they are the real deal. So, Andy Graziano, is there anything you would like to plug tonight?
I'd like to welcome our new addition, former lead writer for the Fischler Report, credentialed Islanders columnist Scott Charles, joins the Islanders Insight team. We are very, very proud to have him. Also, our man Eric Borden gets bumped up to senior staff writer. He's done a fantastic job running our Facebook page, so congratulations to the both of them. And to the readers and listeners, thanks for sticking with us. We're going to have some new, exciting, fantastic content coming to close the year and open up 2015, so thanks for all your support.
Rich Diaz Rodriguez, is there anything you'd like to plug?
Thank you to all our readers and listeners. I wish everyone a wonderful holiday, and God bless all, and I'll see you guys next week, I guess. Bye.
And I am Shane Blackburn. I'd like to plug the dumpandchasepodcast.com, IslandersInsight.com. Have a great Thanksgiving, everybody. I hope you enjoyed listening to Jiggs McDonald. This podcast will be up tomorrow and ready to listen to before the game, so you'll be able to listen to the Dump and Chase podcast. Then you'll be able to watch the pregame, and then we'll go right into the game tomorrow night against the Washington Capitals. Chance for the Islanders to win 5 in a row here. So this team's the real deal, so let's enjoy it. See you guys next week. Once again, this was the Dump and Chase podcast. They are Andy and Rich. I am Shane, and until next week, let's go Islanders.